All right, let's start. Start with this. And so I'm going to take you to 497 Queen Street East in Toronto, Canada. And I have visited this website a few times, and I'm also a bit baffled that it is still there every time I come back, because this house has been sold for 2 years, yet the realtor, Ron Riemann, in Bosley, they just keep it up, which I actually truly appreciate, because it allows me my memories of the place and a few other things. So just to get yourself situated, this direction is west, and towards this direction is east, and we're on Queen Street right now. So if you go further this way, you'll get to the Don River. And right now we're standing in front of what was once Joyce Wieland's house. And this is a Legacy Toronto plaque that Jane Rowland, who moved in to Joyce's house after Joyce died, rallied the city of Toronto to get put up. So it's not an architectural designation. So renovations can and have occurred, but it's more of a cultural one. So yeah, I've been in this house twice. I've been in this house in 2016 at the invitation of Jane Rowland, who was living there at the time. And then I was in this house another time in 2018 at the kind of lukewarm invitation of the people who bought it from Jane. And yeah, just for some dates, I don't know when Joyce Wieland moved into this house. I know she moved into it to originally use as a studio. When she broke up and divorced her partner, her husband, she moved into it full time and continue to make her work there, but also to live there. And she passed away. So Joyce Wieland passed away June 27th, 1998. She was 67 years old. And in 1999, Jane Rowland bought the property, brought the house from Joyce's estate. And Jane lived in the house until October 31st, 2017, when she passed away, also at 67 years old. And I met Jane first in 2016 when she wrote me an email with the subject heading, "Raisins Over Passion, Indeed," which of course is a riff off of Joyce Wieland's fabulous work called Reason Over Passion, and also the name of a zine, let's call it a zine of mine, Raisins Over Passion. Anyways, all this to say, I brought my partner Cait to 497, and Jane invited us in. She seemed very happy to meet another Joyce Wieland fan. And Jane's work, and I don't mean the PR work she did for money, but her work for this house and for Joyce's memory was really to create kind of a very unofficial house museum for Joyce Wieland. And a few of the things she very eagerly pointed out when we first got there were located in this room, which is the sort of living room. There are a few photos I've seen of Joyce using this area as a dining room. And there's this one picture which I absolutely love and couldn't find again. It's lost in the veins of the internet. Had Joyce sitting here at her dining table. And of course, not of course, it feels like an of course moment, but this sort of dark wood halo of bookshelves sort of sat above her in this very kind of amazing regal way. So while Joyce, I don't think she actually made these with her hands, she did have them put in, as well as these bookshelves right here. And when Jane was telling Cait and I about the space, she, you know, scaffolded it with this other thing that she had to kind of contend with, and that was owning, you know, a crumbling house, and not having a whole lot of money. She lived in this house by herself, and as I said, she worked in PR. And yeah, it's a 3-story house, so a huge commitment. And at one point, and it was 11 years after Jane moved in, she got, I don't know if got is the right way to put it, but she invited Justin and Colin, and or Colin and Justin of Colin and Justin's Home Heist, and I actually can't remember if it's Justin and Colin's Home Heist, but Home Heist is one of those home renovation shows that aired on HGTV, which I think is Home and Garden TV, and where they would go in and renovate a place, and you know, the owners would be so happy because they didn't have to pay anything, and a TV show was sort of made from it. And so Jane was very adamant to tell us when they came in to take care of her crumbling home, she had them write, she had them sign a contract that they wouldn't touch any of the sort of infrastructure that Joyce had put in. And so this, as I like to call it, a halo of bookshelves. I'm sure there's a more official word for that. And this right here weren't touched. And I've got a little image that I can show you that attests to that in a really nice way. So here we go. Let me just go back. Boom. So here we've got, as the caption said, Joyce's living room. And if you'll see, if you look up here, we've got this little head that still exists in Jane's living room, and these shelves up here, while they were removed to put a TV in, which I support. I enjoy watching TV on a larger screen, I admit it. She did keep them upstairs, so you'll see them on the 3rd floor when we go up there. Here we go, and we'll head back. Yeah, so here we are. And yeah, this was the first room we went into, and yeah, I was really struck with how adamant Jane was to really let us know how the house had been changed against her will almost, but also how it had changed, how it had stayed the same really, and it's, you know, what time had done to it. She also pointed out that these stairs, which are covered with like a leopard print broadloom almost, were not her choice, but the choice of Justin and Colin. She then invited us into the nope, sorry, not the living room. We left the living room, we entered the kitchen. And she also pointed out that this ceiling treatment, pressed tin tiles, was the choice of the renovation show, but we didn't stay too long on that. She really brought us in here to show us these 2 artworks of Joyce's that she had. And while I can't remember the name or even the content of the smaller drawing here, I do remember that this piece, the circular piece, which has Wieland's kind of, I don't want to say trademark, but something she's quite known for, these lithos of lipsticked lip prints. This piece in particular is called Squid Jigging Grounds. It's from 1973. It's a litho on paper, edition of 50. And Jane was so very proud to have it in there. She had gotten it at auction, and she made a real point to tell us that she didn't have a ton of money, but it was really important to her when she could afford it and find it to have pieces of Joyce's in the house. From there, she took us outside and showed us her incredible backyard, which didn't quite look like this when she showed us, but of course this is Ron Rieman's photographer's take on this place. No doubt some filters are on this image, but these birch trees, I was lucky enough to come across an image of them soon after I met Jane. And I remember sending this image to Jane, being like, "Hey Jane, look, it's your birch trees, or Joyce's birch trees." And in the book that I found this in, they had mentioned that Jane had planted these with her friend Monroe Ferguson. I wonder if Monroe Ferguson goes and visits them. Very healthy birch trees. All right, so we'll go back and we'll go back here. We didn't spend a whole lot of time out here, but it was nice to see those birch trees. And so then Jane led us to the hallway to take us upstairs, and she didn't bring us to the basement. So we actually aren't able to view the basement. The only way we're able to view the basement is from, no, main, second, third. Interesting, we can't even access it from this, from this little sort of map over here. Interesting. I guess seeing basements in virtual tours or interactive tours of realtors isn't that important. I did get to see the basement once, and that was in 2018. As I said, it wasn't with Jane, and that is fine. So Jane then took us up the stairs, and the first room we went into was this room, and I'm going to just guide you back here again to locate ourselves. So those are the birch trees that Jane planted with her friend Monroe. Oh, I hope I just said Joyce. Just as a disclaimer, Joyce Wieland, Canadian artist, experimental filmmaker, Jane Rowland, amazing woman, PR, she worked in PR, very different women, but so deeply entwined in my mind, and such sort of similar names, the J's, I guess, that I often get them confused. So I apologize about that. One other thing that Jane told us, besides pointing out the birch trees again, is that when she moved in before this floor was redone by Colin and Justin, and she didn't mention what kind of floor it was, but she had said there were paint drops on the floor because while Jane used this room as her bedroom, Joyce had used it as her studio. So there were paint drops that, from brush to canvas would have liberated themselves. In the name of Joyce Wieland's creativity, imagination, drive, passion, desire, rage, all of it. Then we go this way. Oh, we went too far. There's a haunting going on. We're being told which way to go, which I don't mind. I don't mind. I want to just peek into this bathroom very quickly. I'm not even going to say anything about it. Let's just say those aren't original tiles. And then the next room we went to was the third floor, which is an attic. Here we've got those drawers that Jane had told us about, or that had been removed to allow room for the TV. So she did keep them. When we were up here, it really didn't look that much like a bedroom as it does now. I'm imagining everything that's sort of like hidden behind this folding wall was sort of out in the open. And in particular, there were two wooden cassette tape racks that were leaning up against this banister. And I can't remember what I said about them or what got Jane to gift them to me, but she did. And they were cassette racks that belonged to Joyce that Jane held on to and couldn't seem to get rid of, even though she said herself she no longer had audio cassette tapes. And if you've seen those kind of those racks before. They're very particular. It takes a very particular kind of object to fit into them. And I didn't take them. I said thank you. I said I wanted them so badly, but I had just moved into an apartment, a new apartment with Cait, and we had absolutely no room. And while I would have found room, I really wouldn't have, and Cait would have been upset. Rightfully so. Anyways, I move on. This is the last room that Jane took us to, and this is a room that Joyce had used as her bedroom and Jane used as her studio, and by studio, I mean her office. Again, I think this is the third time I've mentioned this. She worked in PR, so she was very good at returning emails, which I'll always remember that. And yeah, so she worked here, and she pointed out a few things to us. This kind of an incredible colic, flowery, viney trim that goes around the entire room. She said, at least I think she said, was painted by Joyce. It might have just been put up by Joyce. It looks as though it's actually painted on the wall, as opposed to, you know, a wallpaper strip that's pasted on. And this incredible sort of object, this sun-bleached valance, yeah, I imagine it used to be quite a bright pink. You can sort of see a bit more of the color on the underside. The glorious ravaging sun has done its business on the outside. And it's interesting, it looks more like a jacquard now, but for the longest time I remembered it as a moire. Yeah, it really does look like a jacquard. So yeah, I love this room. I love the image of Jane working in there with Joyce's place of rest right behind her. And by the looks of it, not much, you know, has changed. Perhaps like a new comforter, perhaps some new pillows, but you know, that might even be staging. I can't quite remember. So once we left that room, we stood around for a little while on the landing, on the second floor landing. And to kind of give you an idea of what this space looked like at that point, there were, and I can't remember how many, but definitely more than just one layer of hooked rugs that were hanging on this banister. I asked Jane about them, and she said she collected them but hadn't had the time to hang them up. And right here, something way more unexpected than hooked rugs were slabs of marble. Yeah, just slabs of marble. I think there were about 3 or 4 pieces, and this was not spectacular marble. It was, it looked like, you know, it would be used for a countertop or something like that. And I asked Jane about the marble, and she told us that when she moved in, just before she moved in, I should say, Joyce's estate and some of her family had come through the house and taken, you know, the objects that they wanted, they needed, that they felt had some sort of value or cultural value that like an archive might want. But then there were quite a few things that were left over. Thinking about that head in the living room that's on the bookshelves. That would have been left over. And this marble was just left there. And you know, after Cait and I left that day, I thought about that marble a lot, and I wondered why she had just left it there. Because when I asked her about it, she immediately offered it to me. She's like, "Oh, you like this? Do you want it? You can have it. It's Joyce Wieland's marble, and I want you to have it. Please take it." And of course I said yes. I was like, "Oh my gosh, of course." Just wanting a little piece of Joyce Wieland, and really that, not needing marble, not being a sculptor, not being a marble sculptor, not being a mason, stonemason, not really knowing what to do with marble, but I just wanted this piece of Joyce so badly. And also Jane, you know, as the sort of conduit between Joyce Wieland and myself. But to get back to what I was trying to say, I was like, oh, you know, that marble could have stayed there for so many reasons, partly as a reminder of Joyce Wieland, the person who had like inhabited this house and this, important, amazing, critical, radical, angry, loving, artist. But also marble's heavy and she lived in this house alone. And, it's quite possible that she just was never able to move the marble, right? Things move up, people move up, objects move up, smells move up, and sometimes they don't go down. Oh, here we are, the haunting again. So we'll go back downstairs. We'll go back downstairs. Let's see the best way to do this. Here we go. All right, so I was high on my new inheritance, and Jane told me, come when you have a chance to get it, come when you have a vehicle with good shocks, come when you have strong people, men, I believe she said. I don't know why I just did that for men, but it felt like a moment to come get the rest of the marble, because the rest of it was in the basement, which we never got to see, slowly dimpling the earth. The way she described the amount of marble was just, it actually, I will show you what it got me thinking of. So the way Jane Rowland described Joyce Wieland's marble in the basement of her house had me thinking, oops, let me try that again. Had me thinking, this would be my life. Just large, huge, huge, unmovable, of the earth, trillions of years old. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is out of control. This is out of control. My new inheritance. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So Cait and I left that day. Jane had invited us to stay, have a little glass of wine, but Cait and I were going to the AGO to see Keith Cole perform, and that was just too great to pass up. So we said, thank you so much, Jane. Thank you for Joyce's marble. We'll be in touch. And we left, and Jane and I emailed a few times over the next while, and then she passed away. And the next time, I know I've already said when she passed away, but just October 31st, 2017. And I learned that by her obituary in the Globe and Mail that Cait actually found for me. So the last time I was at this house was about a week before Cait and I were moving to Los Angeles. Cait had gotten a job. We pulled up and I went across the street to say goodbye to this house, to say goodbye to my marble, which was still in the basement, and to just pay my respects. And I looked in this window and I saw that the shelving, that halo of shelves, and the bookshelf with the little head had all been taken out. It had all been renovated. And this was, this was the kind of infrastructure that Joyce had put in, that Jane had been so adamant about and fought for. And I was raging, really. I was livid. I was like, ah. So I knocked on the door. The door was answered. Words were exchanged. I went downstairs and I left. And I left that day without my marble for so many reasons. For so many reasons that are still becoming clear to me. But, I didn't need that marble. I needed the gift from Jane of Joyce's marble more than I needed the marble. And yeah, Cait and I headed off this way to go see Keith Cole.